why Paraguay will not become as popular as other emerging countries. Today I wanted to fill you in on some very interesting facts that I was able to observe right here in Asunción, Paraguay, which make me believe that the majority of expats, investors, entrepreneurs may not come to this country and may not end up living here, and how you can take advantage of their passive behavior. Now, this video is going to be focused on nomads, expats, and people who are living abroad. One of the biggest things that we have spotted, that I have spotted, is that a good part of our industry, right? A good chunk of all of you guys watching this video, if you are a nomad or expat, you don't care about stability as much. The majority of people watching this video will never get residency in a foreign country. And many of those who end up living abroad may end up living in countries on a tourist visa. So there's no stability thinking going on up here. But there are people, in fact, there's a good amount of people who do want to get residency, who do want to settle down, who do want to start a family, who do want to start a business, who do want to invest money in Paraguay. There are a lot of people who want to take their life to the next level, but the majority of people will never do it. Getting residence in a foreign country is scary. In fact, the thought itself of moving to a foreign country is quite scary. So a lot of people end up consuming these videos but never actually take the first step towards moving to Paraguay. And because of that, I personally don't believe that Paraguay will become anything like Thailand, Malaysia, or even the Philippines. Paraguay will remain a hidden gem for decades to come. Because of the fact that most people don't want stability, and the fact that Paraguay has a very different value proposition, the fact that most people don't want stability in this age, in the 21st century, and the fact that Paraguay is indeed very different than many other countries, makes it quite obvious that Paraguay cannot become as popular as other countries. The next point that I have spotted is that most nomads complain about how boring Paraguay is. There's nothing to do here. Paraguay does not have a coastline. There are no beaches, no oceanside beaches. There are no big entertainment discotheques. I mean, there are more, but they're not at the same level as in other countries like Thailand, the Philippines. You know, these Southeast Asian countries, they have just much more entertainment on offer than a place like Paraguay. Paraguay is a tax haven, right? A country where you can legally avoid paying taxes without breaking the law in many cases. This is something we're going to talk about in the next point, but just talking about how boring Paraguay is. I met a lot of people that didn't end up staying here because it was too boring. However, a good part of our clientele now is actually coming here with their families. They're married, they have children. Like, more and more people are catching on to the fact that, hey, Paraguay is actually a great place for my family. People with families are more concerned about safety. They're more concerned about the long-term stability, that they can get temporary residency with a path to permanent residency, and the fact that they can own firearms legally. The fact that Paraguay is rich in natural resources. Like, people with families who want to settle down, they consider these things a lot more than single guys. But more and more single guys are also catching on to the fact that Paraguay has more value than a lot of Southeast Asian countries in a lot of categories. Obviously, Southeast Asian countries have different values that Paraguay does not have. Life is all about priorities. But the lack of pleasure is one of the biggest reasons why many expats and nomads don't end up staying here. They find the place too boring, unattractive, it's dull, there's just not much to do here. It's difficult to spend money in Paraguay. The only places where you can really be spending money here are usually the shopping malls. Exotic cars are quite rare here. There are some, but you can probably count them on two hands. So Paraguay is not the kind of country that attracts a high-end lifestyle either. Another big reason why Paraguay will not become super popular, why Paraguay will stay a hidden gem for many more years and even decades to come, is because most nomads and expats evade taxes anyway. Let me say that again. Most nomads and expats evade taxes anyway. What do I mean by that? As soon as a lot of people moved out of their developed countries, be it Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, the European Union, and they ended up choosing a place like Paraguay, or they ended up choosing a place like in Southeast Asia, or even in Eastern Europe, maybe they went to Africa or a different Latin American country, a lot of the times people don't worry about paying taxes anymore because in their mind they know that these developing countries are run by governments that don't really enforce the law. They don't really enforce the tax laws in their countries, and because of that, it doesn't matter if they're gonna evade taxes or not. So a lot of the times people come to emerging countries with this mentality, believing that nothing's ever going to happen to them. Eventually, the chickens do come home to roost, especially if you keep on doing a certain behavior for a prolonged period of time. And so a lot of nomads and expats don't really care about Paraguay's territorial tax system, in the sense that being in Asia or being in Africa or being in a different Latin American country, even though those countries may not have a territorial tax system, and in fact those countries may have very high income tax rates, they end up not paying income taxes to that country because they don't have residency in that country, they're not a citizen of that country, they're just there on a tourist visa, and they don't want to worry about anything related to taxes in the country they're living in. Technically, this is illegal, it's tax evasion, but because some countries or many emerging countries don't have advanced monitoring systems, they don't have the technology, they don't have the infrastructure to enforce their laws, and often, a lot of the times, countries are run by corrupt government officials that actually do use tax evasion. And so since the top people are getting away with it, they're not really concerned about implementing these laws or enforcing these laws on the smaller people, the middle class or the upper middle class. Anyway, I think this is a very strong point that is very true. Another reason Paraguay will not become very popular and Paraguay will stay a hidden gem for decades to come because most people prefer Asia. I've said this a lot. It is true, most people prefer Asia, even though they're never going to have the full spectrum of civil and property rights. Most people prefer Asia. Why? There's more entertainment there, it's more pleasurable, it is cheaper even than Paraguay, even though Paraguay is quite cheap. There are some countries in Southeast Asia that are cheaper than Paraguay, where rent is cheaper, where food is cheaper. Maybe a little bit, not much, but in terms of food, Paraguay is very cheap already. But there are cheaper countries out there. And most importantly, there are countries that offer you more pleasure. And a lot of the times, that's where you go. You go where you find more pleasure or where you find the most pleasure because you don't want to get bored living in a country. And if it's pleasurable, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be entertained for a long time to come. Like I said, Southeast Asia offers probably the best lifestyle in the entire world. And I don't blame people for moving there. I don't blame people for living in Southeast Asia on a tourist visa. I don't blame people for evading taxes in Southeast Asia. It has become the norm. It is not enforced and it may not be enforced. And now there are so many loopholes, there are so many gray areas that you can take advantage of where it may not make sense for you to move to a place like Paraguay. However, if you have consciousness and if you are ethical and if you want to live in a country and do things by the books, Paraguay will make perfect sense for you. But like I said, a lot of the times people don't care about following the law because they're in a developing country, it's not their native country, they're not a citizen, so they don't treat their host country like they treated their native country or like they are treating their native country. This is very true as well. Last but not least, most nomads and expats would want access to the ocean anyway. The ocean is very important to people. It gives a different vibe, there's more to do, and of course the climate's different. It's just a different atmosphere, and Paraguay will never offer you an ocean. It's not going to happen. And because of that, Paraguay will stay a hidden gem for decades to come. Now, if you're interested in obtaining Paraguayan residency and working with Nomad Elite, please go to nomadelite.com, click on book a consultation, and I look forward to speaking with you personally and helping you obtain residency in Paraguay and establish yourself in this beautiful country located in South America. Thank you so much for watching Nomad Elite. I truly appreciate your attendance and I look forward to welcoming you to Paraguay.